How did a flat cardboard box become one of the most powerful cost advantages in global retail? At first, the answer seems obvious. Flat pack furniture takes up less space. That means more products can fit inside a truck. Fewer trucks are needed, and transportation becomes cheaper. It is a simple explanation, and it is not wrong. But it is incomplete. If flat pack were only a shipping trick, then almost any furniture company could copy it. A competitor could redesign a table, separate the legs from the top, place everything inside a thinner box, and claim the same advantage. Yet IKEA did not become one of the largest home furnishing retailers in the world simply because it learned how to remove empty space from a truck. In the 1950s, IKEA began developing furniture that could be packed and transported in flat boxes. The idea helped reduce damage, lower transport costs, and make products easier to move. Over time, the flat box became one of the most recognizable elements of the IKEA experience. Customers walk through large showrooms. They write down product numbers. They collect boxes from warehouse shelves. They load those boxes into their own vehicles. Then they take the products home and assemble them themselves. Most people see this process as the price of buying affordable furniture. They assume IKEA saves money because it does less for the customer. But that explanation raises a more important question. Why has this system produced such a durable global advantage for IKEA, while so many other furniture companies still struggle to match its combination of scaled design, availability, and low prices? The answer cannot be found in transportation alone. Furniture is expensive to move because it is large, fragile, and filled with empty space. A finished wardrobe occupies the same volume whether it is sold or simply waiting in a warehouse. A sofa requires significant storage space. A dining table may need careful handling from the factory to the store and from the store to the customer. For a traditional furniture retailer, these costs appear at every stage. Products must be designed, manufactured, stored, displayed, handled, delivered, and often assembled before the customer can use them. Each step requires space, labor, time, and capital. IKEA approached this problem differently. Instead of asking how to transport finished furniture more efficiently, it began shaping furniture around the economics of the entire journey. Product dimensions, materials, components, packaging, warehouse systems, store layouts, and customer behavior gradually became connected. That distinction matters. A flat box can be copied. A complete operating system built around that box is much harder to reproduce. So the real question is not why IKEA packs furniture flat. It is how a packaging decision became the foundation of a global cost structure that competitors could see, imitate, and still fail to match. To understand why this approach became so difficult to copy, it helps to look at what IKEA was actually trying to build. The company was never competing to make the most luxurious furniture. It was competing to make well-designed home furnishings affordable for as many people as possible. That objective shaped every decision that followed. IKEA describes this philosophy as creating products with a balance of form, function, quality, sustainability, and a low price. The important point is that price is not something added at the end of the development process. It becomes one of the design requirements from the very beginning. That changes how a product is created. A traditional manufacturer might begin with aesthetics or engineering, complete the product, and then ask how it can be produced, packaged, and delivered efficiently. IKEA works in the opposite direction. Designers, product developers, engineers, and suppliers work together while the product is still being conceived. They have to consider not only how the furniture will look inside a customer's home, but also how every component will fit inside a flat package, how efficiently that package can move through factories and warehouses, and how easily a customer can assemble it later. The product is never separated from the system that delivers it. This philosophy extends far beyond product design. IKEA works with a global network of suppliers, while standardized product development allows manufacturing expertise to be shared across different markets. Because many products are built from repeatable components and common production methods, suppliers can invest in specialized equipment with greater confidence, knowing that large production volumes can justify those investments. The same thinking appears throughout the retail experience. Instead of treating warehouses as facilities hidden behind stores, IKEA integrates storage directly into the customer journey. Large warehouse shelves become part of the shopping experience itself. Customers are able to collect many products immediately rather than waiting for delivery from a separate distribution center. This arrangement reduces handling while allowing inventory to move through a more standardized process. Even the dimensions of a package influence what happens long before a customer reaches the checkout counter. A smaller package requires less storage space. It allows more products to occupy the same warehouse. It simplifies transportation planning. It makes inventory movement more predictable. Every improvement may appear small in isolation, but each one affects the next stage of the operation. What begins as a design decision gradually reshapes manufacturing logistics, inventory management, retail operations, and ultimately pricing. This is why flat pack should not be viewed as a feature attached to a finished product. It becomes one of the rules that every part of the organization must follow. By the time a customer places a box into a shopping cart, thousands of earlier decisions have already been influenced by the assumption that the product must travel through the entire system in that specific form. That is where the story begins to move beyond packaging. Once every stage of the business starts adapting to the same design principle, improvements in one area no longer remain isolated. They begin reinforcing one another, creating a chain of efficiencies that grows stronger as the company expands its scale across suppliers, warehouses, stores, and markets around the world. Once every part of the organization follows the same design principle, something much more important begins to happen. Individual cost reductions stop acting independently. They reinforce one another. This is the point where flat pack changes from a product feature into an economic system. Consider the product itself. A table designed for flat packaging cannot simply be disassembled at the end of production. Every component has to be engineered from the beginning, with manufacturing, packaging, transportation, storage, and assembly already in mind. That affects material selection. It affects joint design. It affects the size of every panel. It even affects the order in which customers will eventually assemble the product. One design decision influences every stage that follows. The same pattern appears in manufacturing. Because IKEA develops standardized products for global markets, suppliers can produce large volumes using highly specialized production lines. Higher production volumes spread fixed manufacturing costs across millions of units while allowing suppliers to invest in more efficient equipment and processes. Economies of scale become easier to achieve because products have been designed for repetition rather than customization. The impact continues after production. Flat packages occupy significantly less space than fully assembled furniture. More units fit inside containers, trucks, and warehouses. Storage density increases. Distribution centers process more inventory within the same physical footprint. Retail locations can store a larger assortment without proportionally increasing space requirements. Every stage moves more products using the same infrastructure. Those savings do not remain isolated inside the logistics department. Lower logistics costs support lower retail prices. Lower prices attract more customers. Higher sales volumes increase purchasing power with suppliers. Greater purchasing power lowers production costs even further. Each improvement strengthens the next. Instead of reducing one expense, IKEA creates a reinforcing cycle that becomes more efficient as the business grows. The company's recent performance reflects how central affordability remains to this strategy. During the financial year 2025, IKEA reported retail sales of approximately 44.6 billion euros. At the same time, the company highlighted continued price reductions across many markets, contributing to increased product volumes despite pressure on revenue growth from lower prices. That combination is significant. Lower prices are often associated with lower profitability. For IKEA, lower prices help sustain the scale that makes the entire operating model work. This also explains why copying only one element rarely produces the same result. A competitor may introduce flat pack products while still operating factories designed for traditional furniture. Another company may redesign packaging but continue using expensive distribution systems built around fully assembled products. Others may reduce shipping costs without achieving comparable purchasing power because their production volumes remain much smaller. Each improvement remains disconnected from the rest of the business. IKEA connects them all. Design influences manufacturing. Manufacturing influences logistics. Logistics influences inventory. Inventory influences pricing. Pricing influences demand. Demand reinforces manufacturing once again. By now, the flat cardboard box begins to look less like the source of the advantage and more like the visible consequence of a much deeper set of business decisions. There's still one critical piece missing. Even after redesigning products, optimizing factories, improving transportation, and lowering prices, one question remains unanswered. Who actually performs the final stage of creating the finished piece of furniture? The answer is that the furniture is not actually finished when it leaves IKEA. The final stage happens somewhere else. It happens in the customer's home. This is the point where the entire business model looks different. Most people describe IKEA as a company that asks customers to assemble their own furniture. That is true, but it misses the economic significance of what is really taking place. In a traditional furniture business, nearly every operational task remains inside the company. Employees assemble products, warehouses store completed furniture, delivery teams transport bulky items, and installation crews may complete the final setup in the customer's home. The company performs almost every activity until the product is fully ready for use. IKEA redraws that boundary. The company still performs the activities where scale creates the greatest efficiency. It develops products, coordinates suppliers, standardizes manufacturing, optimizes logistics, and builds an integrated retail network. But the final assembly is intentionally left outside the company. That decision changes far more than labor costs. Because assembly happens after purchase, products can remain compact throughout manufacturing, transportation, storage, and retail. They only become large pieces of furniture after reaching their final destination. Every earlier stage of the value chain benefits from that choice. Customers also become active participants in the process. They walk through the showroom. They collect products from warehouse shelves. They transport the packages themselves. Finally, they complete the last stage of assembly at home. Each activity replaces work that would otherwise require employees, facilities, vehicles, equipment, or inventory inside the business. This does not mean IKEA simply transfers costs to customers. If that were the whole story, the model would not have expanded successfully across so many countries. Customers participate because they receive something valuable in return. Lower prices, immediate product availability, the ability to transport furniture using ordinary passenger vehicles, the flexibility to assemble products whenever it suits them. The exchange only works because both sides benefit. That balance also explains why IKEA invests so heavily in product design. Instructions have to be clear. Components must fit together consistently. Packaging must protect every part during transport. Missing hardware or confusing assembly would immediately destroy the economic advantages created earlier in the process. The customer experience is therefore not separate from operational efficiency. It is one of the conditions that makes operational efficiency possible. This perspective also explains why competitors struggle to reproduce the same results. Copying a flat package is relatively easy. Rebuilding an entire organization around customer participation is not. A competitor would have to redesign products for self-assembly, restructure manufacturing, reconfigure warehouses, change store layouts, develop new supplier capabilities, retrain customers, reposition its brand, and convince the market that this different purchasing experience is worth accepting. Every element depends on every other element. Removing one piece weakens the entire system. What appears to be a simple packaging decision is actually a carefully coordinated redistribution of work across the entire value chain. The company performs the activities where scale creates the greatest advantage. Customers perform the final activities where individual effort is economically more efficient. Once that pattern becomes visible, the source of IKEA's competitive strength starts to look very different from the explanation most people stop at. The flat box was never the destination. It was the mechanism that allowed the entire system to operate according to a completely different economic logic. Seen from this perspective, the flat cardboard box was never the real innovation. It was simply the most visible part of a much larger system. Every piece of evidence points in the same direction. Design was planned around efficient production. Production supported standardized suppliers. Standardization improved logistics. Efficient logistics reduced storage and transportation costs. Lower operating costs made lower prices possible. Lower prices increased demand. Higher demand reinforced purchasing power and manufacturing scale. The entire system strengthened itself with every additional customer. The important insight is that none of these advantages existed independently. Remove flatpack from this system, and transportation becomes less efficient. Remove standardized product design, and manufacturing loses scale. Remove customer self-service, and store operations become more expensive. Remove self-assembly, and products become larger long before they reach the customer's home. Each decision depends on the others. That is why competitors rarely succeed by copying only what customers can see. A similar package does not create a similar business. A similar product does not create a similar cost structure. What made IKEA difficult to imitate was never the appearance of the furniture. It was the architecture connecting thousands of operational decisions into one consistent economic model. This also changes the way we think about cost leadership. Many companies try to reduce costs by negotiating lower supplier prices, automating factories, or improving transportation efficiency. Those initiatives can certainly create value, but they usually optimize individual activities while leaving the rest of the business unchanged. IKEA followed a different path. Instead of asking how to make every activity cheaper, it redesigned how every activity connected to every other activity. The result was not simply lower costs. It was a cost structure that became increasingly difficult to separate from the company's operating model itself. Perhaps the most overlooked part of that system is the role of the customer. The customer is often described as someone who accepts the inconvenience of carrying heavy boxes home and assembling furniture in exchange for lower prices. That description is accurate, but it still understates what is happening. The customer is not standing outside the operating model. The customer is operating inside it. The final stage of production no longer takes place inside a factory or distribution center. It takes place in millions of homes around the world. Without that participation, many of the efficiencies created throughout the earlier stages would disappear. The customer is therefore not simply buying the product. The customer completes the system that makes the product economically possible. That is why the source of IKEA's profitability cannot be traced to transportation alone, or packaging alone, or even manufacturing alone. Its strength comes from transforming costs that most companies carry internally into coordinated activities distributed across an entire value chain, where every participant contributes to making the system more efficient. In the end, the flatpack box is easy to notice. The real achievement is much harder to see. IKEA did not build a global advantage by inventing a different way to package furniture. It built a different way to organize work itself. And once a company turns an entire value chain into a single coordinated system, the hardest thing for competitors to copy is no longer the product. It is the logic that connects everything behind it.